All right, welcome back, everyone. Ready for another deep dive?
Always ready to dive in. What have we got today?
Well, today we're going back in time, back to the golden age of boxing.
Ooh, sounds exciting. Who are we focusing on?
We're looking at the life of a boxer named Oscar Battling Nelson.
Oscar Battling Nelson. Now that's a name that packs a punch.
He sure did. He was the world lightweight champion back in 1908. But his story, it's more than just boxing.
Oh, how so?
Well, we've got some newspaper articles and reports about his life and career, especially from towards the end. And it's a story of, well, resilience, fame, and really what it was like back in the early 1900s.
It's always fascinating to see how these athletes' lives played out back then. The world was a very different place.
It sure was.
Yeah.
Okay, so Oscar Battling Nelson, born in Copenhagen but raised in Chicago.
The classic American dream setup. From immigrant to champion. I love it.
Right, and he didn't just win any fight to become champion. He knocked out Joe Gans,
Hold on. Joe Gans. The Joe Gans.
the one and only.
Wow. Gans was a legend. I mean,
Mm.
to beat him, to knock him out, that's a statement.
That's putting the whole boxing world on notice.
Absolutely. That win must have catapulted Nelson into the spotlight.
It did. And get this, Nelson and Gans, they fought each other 3 times.
3 times. Wow, talk about a rivalry. Why were those boxing rivalries so big back then?
I think part of it was, well, is the entertainment.
Makes sense. There wasn't exactly Netflix back then.
Exactly. No streaming services, no internet. These fights, they were the events everyone talked about.
Right, like a Super Bowl, but with, more punching.
Exactly. It was more than just a fight. It was like this personal battle played out in front of the whole world.
Yeah, like Ali versus Frazier. Those fights were legendary. But tell me more about Battling Nelson. That nickname, it just screams toughness, doesn't it?
Oh, he earned that nickname. The Durable Dane, they called him. He was known for taking punches, just absorbing them and keeping on coming.
Stamina and resilience, two essential qualities in the ring. In boxing, it's not always about who hits harder. Sometimes it's about who can take the punishment and keep going.
He had grit, that's for sure. And he didn't lose that fighting spirit even as he got older. There's this crazy story about him.
Oh, do tell. I love a good boxing story.
So picture this. He's 69 years old. 2 thugs try to mug him.
Oh, no. At 69, that's awful.
Right. You'd think they'd pick on someone else, but nope. But Oscar Nelson, he fights them off.
He fought back at 69.
Yep. Show them what battling Nelson was all about, even in his later years.
That's amazing. But it makes his later life even more tragic,
It really does. Because despite earning a fortune during his boxing career, he lost it all.
Lost it all. How's that possible?
Well, the stock market crash of 1929 hit him hard.
Ah, that makes sense. So many people lost everything in that crash.
He had invested poorly, and poof, $500,000 gone.
It's a reminder that even champions aren't immune to life's hard knocks.
Right. And he had to find work at the Chicago post office after that.
From world champion boxer to sorting mail, talk about a change of pace.
It's almost poetic in a sad kind of way. And even after they let him go from the post office because of his age, he still believed he could outwork everyone.
That fighting spirit never died, did it?
Nope. But sadly, things took a turn. He was admitted to Dunning State Hospital.
What happened? Was he ill?
He was diagnosed with incurable senile dementia.
Oh, awful.
And in 1954, he passed away.
What a sad end to such a vibrant life.
The official cause of death was lung cancer. But they only discovered it after he was admitted for dementia.
It makes you wonder, though, could all those blows to the head have contributed to his dementia?
That's the question, isn't it? Back then, they didn't really understand the long-term effects of head trauma.
Yeah, the understanding of concussions and brain injuries, it's come a long way since then.
It really has. And it makes you think about the price these fighters paid.
Absolutely. It's a reminder of the hidden costs of the sport, especially in that era.
So when we look at Oscar Battling Nelson's life, what do we see?
A champion, a survivor, but also a victim of circumstance. Story of resilience, but also a reminder of how fleeting fame and fortune can be.
And it makes me wonder what drove these fighters back then. What kept them going? Was it the love of the sport? Or was it more about survival?
That's a question we can all ponder. What drives anyone to push themselves to their limits, to face pain and hardship? It's a complex mix of ambition, passion, and maybe even a little bit of desperation.
And sometimes, maybe it's just the will to fight, to keep going, even when the odds are stacked against you.
Just like Oscar Battling Nelson did his whole life.
He sure did.